The following program is a PodcastOne.com production. He started in a small town in Texas. Worked his ass off to become one of the most famous wrestlers of all time.
We're going to take care of business tonight, and that's the bottom line.
And now he's dominating the world of on-demand audio. And he's doing it for the working man.
This is a damn good outlet for me to spew the bullshit off my brain.
Yeah! This is the Steve Austin Show. Unleashed.
All right, everybody, welcome to Steve Austin Show. I am coming to you from South Texas at the Broken Skull Ranch, out here in the middle of nowhere. And it is absolutely wonderful. Sun is up in the sky, got a nice breeze going. Fixing to get on my Kawasaki mule and go shed hunting, looking for some horns at the deer shed. Hey, before I do that, talk about today's podcast. I was going to do a Q&A today and answer the questions you guys sent into my email account. So many of the questions says, hey, when's Ted Fowler going to be back on the show? When's Ted Fowler going to be back on the show? Hell, Ted Fowler's going to be here on Friday, so I figured I'd wait on the Q&A, wait for Fowler to get down and talk to him, and kill two birds with one stone. Well, still need a podcast for the day. Well, that's where I brought in part 2 of my conversation with Adam Cole, the only 3-time world champion at the Ring of Honor promotion. So part 2 of my podcast with Adam Cole is today. He is my guest. He came to Studio 316 last Saturday, and we chopped it up and shot the breeze. Had a lot of positive feedback on that podcast, so I think you're going to enjoy him answering the questions that you sent in. But before we get to the body podcast, shit, we've got so many things going on here at the ranch, it's unbelievable. Rolled in from the airport, pulled up, went into the pavilion, came into the house, let the dogs go out to the front yard to take a leak, and goddamn, the grass is about a foot and a half tall. The grass is so tall that my wife said,
mow the lawn first.
Mow the lawn first. It was 5 p.m. when we got here. I went out to the barn, got on my John Deere riding lawnmower, and that son of a bitch needed gas. Fired right up. I drove over to the gas pump out here. The gas pump was completely empty. Ted had been telling me for months, we're low on gas. We're low on gas. One more time, we're low on gas. Shit, I didn't know he meant we was flat out of gas. Not a drop come out of the damn nozzle. So I rounded up the last of my 5-gallon gas cans and filled up the lawnmower. Came in and mowed the front yard. Killed all the damn grass down to about 2 inches tall. Looked like a golf course. In the process of mowing that grass, the breeze was blowing the grass back up on me. And I was wearing my standard wearing outfit. Camouflage shorts, dry fit shirt, sleeveless. That breeze was blowing that grass back up on my shoulders. And I started thinking about chiggers, red bugs, kind of itching a little bit. But I said, man, I'm just going to have to man up, put through this, and just mow the grass. Well, that's what I did. I mowed the yard, and it looks great. Problem was, those red bugs, those chiggers I kept talking about, thinking about, thought that I was going to escape. I didn't escape. I come inside, and my wife says, Jesus Christ. And she's looking at me like I'm crazy. I said, what? She goes, go look in the mirror at your shoulders. I went and looked in the mirror, and it was like, how would you describe it? I looked like I had chicken pox on my deltoids. I had about 30 big-ass whelps on each shoulder. I would send a picture out on Twitter, but I look so stupid, it would be ridiculous. These sumbitches, I guarantee you these red bugs have been in my protein feeders because they opened up a can of whoop ass on me. My wife wiped me down with rubbing alcohol. She said, this will kill them. I don't think it killed them. I think they drank the alcohol, caught a buzz, and started digging deeper in my skin. They're itching like a motherfucker, and I got them on top of my head, on the back of my neck. I got them on my earlobe, and every time I scratch one, I say, all right, this is going to be the last time I scratch this one. Because that's what they beg you to do. Just keep scratching, keep irritating them. So I got my ass kicked out here at the Broken Skull Ranch by the chigger bugs. My wife was wiping me down with alcohol on a brawny paper towel. That's right, brawny paper towel. I think a bunch of them jumped off on her neck and on her ears. She wasn't even mowing. She didn't even get in the grass. My chigger bugs jumped off on her and started attacking her neck. So now she got a bunch of bumps, and now she keeps coming up to me and holds up her ear. Is there a chigger on my ear? Yep, sure enough. And so she's eat up with them. It's ridiculous, Kristen. Then on top of that, the no gas thing, I figured, okay, mowed the grass, let's take a lap on the Kawasaki mule. Well, the mule only had about 2 bars of gas in it, so I just figured do what you do when you ain't got no gas. Siphon some gas out of your pickup truck. I pull my pickup truck up to my Kawasaki mule, stick a hose in there that me and Ted used for siphoning, started sucking on that damn hose for about 5 minutes. And I got exactly 2 drops out of that damn thing, but I damn sure got a buzz. And if somebody would have lit a cigarette within about 10 yards of me, would have blown this whole place sky high. It's tough to siphon gas when you only got about a half tank in your pickup truck. Son of a bitch. I just ordered some gas. 200 gallons came this morning, so I can ride my mule around, get on the damn thing, and go out there and look for some sheds. Problem is, Kristen, didn't you get me a back scratcher for Christmas one time? I need that damn thing because I need to borrow a back scratcher from my dad because some of those chiggers are way down on my low back and I can't even reach it. It's ridiculous. See, some bitches are kicking my ass.
As well as the mosquitoes.
Oh, goddamn, talk about mosquitoes. We rolled down to Lake Tombstone after I put that 2 drops of gas in that mule and went down to see alligator. I parked right there by the lake. And sure enough, here comes the mosquitoes out of nowhere, attacking our ass like dive bomb. Yeah. And I was sitting there looking at alligator. Allie walks right up to the mule. Kristen, how far was that alligator from the mule?
2 feet from me.
2 feet. I parked up close so my wife could see it. And sure enough, Allie walks up 2 feet from the mule, and my wife is freaking out. Like the alligator's going to jump in the mule and eat you. Did you really think you were in danger?
Yes, I did.
Come on, really?
Who wants to be that close to an alligator, Steve? I don't care what vehicle you're in.
Well, you ain't going to be hot about it. You're fine, aren't you? Are you traumatized?
We drove off.
Man, we drove off, and there was a trail of mosquitoes following us. They was madder than a hornet that they couldn't suck some blood out. Kristen hit a couple of mosquitoes on me, and it looked like we'd been in a bloodbath. It looks like I've been playing paintball with red paintballs. It was ridiculous. And the thing about it is, as much gas that I had sucked down, you'd figure that those things would explode or get a buzz or something because of the damn gas I'd just been sucking down my system. I could have poisoned myself. Kristen, there's got to be a better way. Next time Teddy says that the gas is low, would you order more fuel?
No, Ted needs to tell me the gas is low, not you.
All right, Teddy, if you listen to the podcast, call Kristen and tell her the gas is low because I'm too stupid to order gas, and I paid the price. But they brought it this morning, Kristen, because I called Terry over at Hargreaves and said, hey, we need some gas. Can you get us some gas here ASAP? And she did. Thank you, Terry at Hargreaves. God dang it. Hey, Adam Cole is my guest today. Had a badass conversation with him on Tuesday. We're going to continue that part 2, and I'm going to get to y'all's questions that you sent me with Ted Fowler 361. I might even let Teddy read the questions. And if you got any questions for Ted, send them to Ted at that same email address that I give you, questions@steveausenshow.com. Anyway, enough about all that stuff. I got to go out there and hunt some sheds, and we're going to get to the body of this podcast with Adam Cole after we help everyone with busted brackets. But just because you have a busted bracket doesn't mean you're out of the money when it comes to March Madness. Just play individual tournament games at betdsi.com. And if you use my promo code, Austin25, you get $25 for free and a 200% bonus on your first deposit. And you ain't got to worry about playing at BetDSI. They've been in the business for over 20 years and are the top-rated business on sportsbook review sites. They got great customer service available 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And they've built their reputation on payment of winnings. And right now, when you register at BetDSI and use my promo code Austin25, you'll get $25 for free and a 200% bonus with your first deposit. BetDSI has live in-game wagering so you can make plays throughout the game. So you can try and cover your losses if you think that's where your original bet is headed. Or you can add to your winnings by placing second-half bets. So get in on this action. Register at betdsi.com and use my promo code Austin25. That's my last name, Austin, and the number 25 to get $25 for free and a 200% bonus with your first deposit. That's betdsi.com and use the promo code Austin25.
All right, it's March, which means it's time for the madness. And it's crunch time in the NBA. So you know we got it all covered on the big podcast with me, Shaq.
And we're way more than just sports, Shaquille. So be prepared to laugh, folks, as we bring you the best basketball coverage, the biggest names in hoops, like Kevin Garnett, Chris Paul, Dick Vitale, Grant Hill, Chris Webber, and many, many more.
The big podcast with Shaq. Check us out with new episodes every Monday at PodcastOne.com.
Steve Austin, Unleashed.
All right, we're rolling sound, part 2 with Adam Cole. Adam, how are you?
I'm doing great, Steve. This has been awesome.
I still can't believe last week you came over to my crib and came in the back door through the alley.
I know. Already blowing the spot.
When you go home, do you go in your front door or your back door?
I go in my front door.
Okay. Hey, let's talk about, before we get to the questions that the fans sent in to my email account, you live in Lancaster, PA, right?
I do. Yeah. Amish country, USA.
Yeah, so are you much of a woodworker yourself?
I'm actually not. I'm terrible with my hands, man.
Oh,
I'm
man.
terrible. But the the Amish are great. They actually built like an addition on my mother's house and everything, and you see them everywhere in their horse and buggies. But I unfortunately did not pick up that skill.
So did you come by, to Los Angeles by way of Lancaster, PA, through Pensacola, Florida?
Yeah, on the way. I stopped on the way.
Tell me
Panama
about the
City,
Pensacola
Florida.
Playboy moniker.
Yeah. Well, Panama City, Florida.
Panama City.
Yeah, that it's the most ridiculous, not exciting story. But when I started wrestling, I had my mind made up that Lancaster, Pennsylvania was not a money star hometown to be from. So I wanted to be from somewhere like Hollywood, California or Los Angeles, California. And my trainer looked at me and said, you can't be from California. Everyone's from California. Pick somewhere else. And I was watching the last the last WCW Nitro, and it said Panama City, Florida. And I said, that sounds great. That's where I'll be from.
I said Pensacola because a lot of Samoan guys, the Armstrongs from Pensacola, so I just lumped you in there. Panama City Playboy.
Panama City Playboy.
Tell me about this Playboy moniker.
Yeah. So that was
work or shoot?
Right. Well, maybe a little bit of both. No, no. But for me, like again, when I first started, I looked like a high school kid, and a bunch of people, used to make comments about me being a playboy or looking like a playboy, and that stuck with me. And I said, "Oh, Panama City Playboy, that's nice." So I used to do the idea of, I was almost like, I don't want to say a surfer style character, but I had palm trees on my tights, and I used to wear like the muscle shirt and the shades and stuff like that. So for me, again, when I was trying to find Adam Cole, that was something that I kind of stuck to, especially in a company like CZW when I was the heel. That was the total opposite of what they liked. They liked the tattooed hardcore deathmatch guys, and here I was wearing aviator sunglasses and a muscle shirt and pointing at my abs on my stomach. It was just the worst. The worst.
Yeah, but how that's the damnedest thing when you first get into the business, or you have aspirations to get into the business. You think, what's my gimmick?
Yeah.
Who am I? And then all of a sudden, I roll into Memphis, Tennessee. I've been working for 2 months. I made my debut as Steve Williams, which is what my shoot name was. But because Dr. Death Steve Williams had already been through the territory, Dutch Mantel, he said, you can't be Steve Williams. I said, why not? He told me why not. And he came up with the Steve Austin name. Well, he gave me 15 minutes to come up with a name. I couldn't come up with a name. He gave me Steve Austin. I said, I don't want to be Steve Austin, $6 million man. He goes, all right, you got 5 minutes to come up with a name. Comes back, what'd you come up with? I said, I ain't come up with nothing. You're Steve Austin. Well, it turns out it worked out for me.
Right.
But, back in the day, I was thinking Samson Sinclair. I had all these stupid names, when I think about them, back in the day. But, dude, it's a hard thing. But that's the importance of some of the things that we harped upon last week. Learning what works for you. don't be afraid just to start somewhere and modify it as you go along, because I would say you're a long ways away from being the Panama City Playboy right now in your current mode.
Exactly. Yeah. But you're so right. When you first start, you obsess so much on that starting character or who you are. But then, like, I wish I could go back and tell 18, 19-year-old me that the journey of finding yourself is the absolute best process. Because, again, I was smart about always trying new things and experimenting with new things, finding out what I was comfortable doing, what I felt that I did best to develop into this Adam Cole character that I am now. But that's just because I tried different things. I listened to other people. Other people would give me advice or opinions on how they think I should present myself. So now I've come up with the character that I am now.
Yeah, man, don't be afraid to. There's a couple of questions here. People ask you questions about getting you started in a business.
Sure.
So from me to you that you're listening, hey, man, I started off as Steve Williams. Dutch Mantel gave me Steve Austin, ended up being Stone Cold Steve Austin. Happy ending to the story. Just like Adam said, man, just start somewhere and commit. And then make changes on the fly, make changes accordingly. Experiment. If things don't work, try something else.
Exactly.
That's the thing about it. And also the thing is about, like we were talking last week, just going from town to town. Don't get stuck in a rut. Don't hesitate to always go out there and have fun and experiment with different things and different ways to play with the emotions of the people.
Yeah, for sure. And because for me, especially in companies like we were talking about last week with like Pro Wrestling Guerrilla and Ring of Honor, when it's time to get serious, it's time to get serious for sure. But the crowd can also tell when you guys are having fun out there. And when you're having fun, they're having fun too, especially if it's not a big main event, blood feud type of angle. And then, again, with experimenting, and if the crowd can tell, I've noticed, if the crowd can tell that you're relaxed, they relax, and they have a blast too.
Let's get to some questions. This comes from Toby Emery. He says, Adam and Steve would be grateful for any advice on getting started on the independent scene, from getting booked, discussing pay with promoters, selling merch, etc. How long did it take you to get the ball rolling and get established? Let's start with the beginning part of that.
Sure.
Just advice to anybody getting started on the indie scene, from getting booked and then discussing pay.
Yeah, the biggest thing for me, and again, this is what worked for me, I was a guy that was always available. I always made myself available. I would, my trainer was actually really great about, he would say at the end of training every week, he'd say, this is where I'm booked. If you want to come and help set up, help tear down, meet people, watch the show, and learn, you're more than welcome to. I lived at his house for a year and a half. I would go to every single show. I would drive him to the towns. We would go there. I would help set up the ring. So the awesome thing was, when I was ready to work, I was already familiar with all of these people because they had seen my face before. I wasn't sending an email or a Facebook message or a Twitter message. I was in their face all the time, showing them that you're a good person, that you're an accountable person, that you'll do anything that's asked of you. And then for me, everything kind of just fell into place because I was there and I was available. And especially in the beginning, too, I know at the end of the day, this is a business and this is a job. But in the beginning, it means so little about that initial bottom line, because if you go out and you impress and you get $20, but if you do great and they want to bring you back, then you can get $40 or $60 or however it works and work your way up to making some good money. Because if you're expecting initially, at least based on my experience, to make money on independent wrestling, it's just not going to happen right out of the gate. You got to pay your dues, work hard, show you're accountable. So again, the biggest thing for sure is obviously you got to be a good dude, but second of all, you just got to show up.
You got to show up. You got to be there, and people have to know about you. If nobody knows about you, you never can get booked.
Right.
I'm not going to elaborate on the indie scene because I never spent any time on it. But I mean, definitely to go along with what you're saying with regards to pay, you got to start somewhere. You're going to start at the bottom.
Absolutely.
9.9 times out of 10. But like I was talking with Adam before we started the podcast, it is incumbent upon you to not just learn the mechanics of the business, the 101s of the business, the psychology of the business, but everything that goes with the business, because I keep saying business because that's what it is.
Exactly.
So you must learn the aspect of making more money. We've all said, God dang, I'm having a blast. I do this for free. We all say that because that's how much we love it. But at the end of the day, it is a job. And so in anything that you do, you want to make as much money as possible. And that's the bottom line. Selling merch. What's the story about selling merch on the indie scene?
Yeah.
You just bring a bunch of shirts, put them at the stand. Hey, man, I'll split this with you this way. Or does the promotion handle that? Ring of Honor is obviously very organized. But what do you do on the true indie scene?
Sure, yeah. On the independent scene, you're in complete control and charge of what you do as far as merchandise goes. I've noticed for me, if people are looking for like a detailed explanation on what works best, the more things you have available, the better you seem to do. Like if you just have one t-shirt and one 8x10, you'll actually have a better chance of selling if you have 3 different t-shirts and 3 different 8x10s and a couple of DVDs, because they see all these options, making deals. You know, you buy a t-shirt, you get an 8x10 for free, like little tricks and stuff like that. But again, it's all experimentation. It's all trying different things. Like, for example, my first t-shirt that I had, I thought it was a great idea to have a bright lime green t-shirt, thinking that
everybody needs a big-ass lime green t-shirt.
Right. Not thinking, oh, this will be different. It'll be great. It fits my character. Not realizing that, again, look at your demographic. A lot of people I like to wear black t-shirts. Wrestling fans like to wear black t-shirts. You have a better chance of kind of sticking in that realm of what works for you. And for me, it's always making something that people wouldn't mind wearing to go to the mall or wouldn't mind wearing going out or anything like that. So, of course, there are different circumstances, but yeah, that you're in complete control of that, and you're the one who has to get the ball rolling on that.
The number one selling T-shirt as far as color is black. The black T-shirt is the number one in my history of what I know about T-shirts.
Mine too, yeah.
So on a side note, Steve, did you ever get frustrated / depressed in the forklift driving days, knowing you didn't want the 9-to-5 job, but had to because it funded your wrestling training? No, man, I was never depressed driving that forklift, man. I was a working man. Manual labor is what I specialized at. And, I just happened to be going down to the Sportatorium watching the Von Erichs fight the Freebirds, stuff like that. And then gentleman Chris Adams had his commercial on TV, so being a lifelong fan since I was 7 or 8, I said, hey, man, wrestling school, I got to give that a try because that's what I want to be. So I enrolled in the school, but make no bones about it, I was never depressed driving that forklift, man. I was happy as a sun. I'm a happy guy. The glass is always half full with me. So driving a forklift is a cool-ass job. I just happened to find a cooler one. Traveling around the world whooping ass.
Right.
Hey, Steve, question for Adam Cole. This is from Bill in London, UK. I got a huge fan base in UK. How's your UK fan base? Great fans over there.
Amazing fans. We just did a little tour over there for Ring of Honor. We were sold out each night. Again, the stuff that these fans come up with these songs and singing and chanting the whole time, they are. And I know it sounds like we say this all the time, but they really are some of the best fans in the world. It's always a blast. It doesn't matter how jet lagged or tired you are. Those fans are passionate.
The thing about it is, do you feel like you can have a dog day afternoon from hell, or just dragged out from jet lag, or tired from being on the road? But boom, as soon as that music hits or that crowd reacts, I was like, you might as well have just, I don't know, be family friendly and say drink a 5-hour energy. Oh, my unleashed show, I just snorted a relic coke. That's not what we're talking about. The adrenaline rush is what I'm talking about. Man, when that crowd lights up, people ask me what I miss about the business. I don't miss anything. I've been gone too long. But when I think about my greatest memories, it's that reaction from the fans, and all of a sudden you're in that 20x20 or however big the ring is. That's fun, and you forget about everything else.
Yeah, there is no question that and I know this has been said to death, but there's no question that the coolest part about the job is that adrenaline rush that you get when you're performing. When you come through the curtain, again, it doesn't matter how, and I know you can attest to this, I've wrestled with 104-degree fever. I've wrestled hurt when I should have gotten surgery. I've wrestled when really bad stuff is going on at home. But for that 20 minutes, it's like you are in a totally different world, a totally different universe, and there's nothing like it. It's imagining being in a room and loving something so much, and then sharing that with 1,000 people, and sharing that with your opponent and the referee and everybody, and getting them to go on that ride with you. It's the most addicting drug in the world.
And from a fan's perspective, when they get a chance to watch wrestling, whether it's a show or they come to a live event, maybe they're in the doldrums or just regular everyday life, and they're working their asses off, okay?
Oh, yeah.
That's what people do. And through the part of that show or your match, they're able to just relax and have a good time. While we're in that ring, that's our time to let everything else go.
Right.
And just channel everything to try to entertain the people. So that's our escape. I'll never forget the late, great Eddie Guerrero. He was the most happiest when he was in the ring performing. Hey, question for Adam Cole. What's the worst gimmick you ever wrestled with?
Worst gimmick I ever wrestled with. Okay, I got a good one. I did a show it was a charity event one time, and they asked me to do this character that you'll get a kick out of this. The name was Austin Uzi. Okay, I wore camouflage pants, a camouflage T-shirt, and a mask with bullet holes in it, and I came out to just the sound of gunshots, and I had to literally, Steve, pretend with my hands that my hands were guns, and I was shooting the gun, and the guy I was working with was selling it like I had guns. It was the most absurd, over-the-top, obnoxious gimmick I've ever had to do that made me go, man, there's some really weird moments in pro wrestling in front of like 60 people, you know.
How did those 60 people react?
Just laughter the entire time. Thank God.
The idea wasn't for the gimmick.
One of the guys who was there thought it would be really hilarious because at the time, you know, I'm like, I just start wrestling, so I'm taking everything so serious, and I want everything to go perfect. And I think it was more a rib on me to be like, hey, loosen up a little bit, you know. So, and I did. I had a blast with it.
Here's the thing, man. When I first started in USWA Weekly Territory, man, I'm absorbing all this information. Get a chance to go to WCW. We're working our asses off, you know, 26, 27 days a month. And I'm in the ring, and I'm just totally serious. A few years goes by, and then I finally realized, hey, you can actually relax and have fun out here. And you can smile kind of within yourself as long as you're in character, but you can have fun when you're out there. And when you're having fun, when you allow yourself to relax to that degree and you have that confidence, that's when you really start having fun and having your best matches.
The biggest key for me with relaxing and having fun was I stopped blowing up. Anytime I am too tense or too nervous or almost too focused, I need to get mentally in a place where I go, I got this. This is going to be a blast. I'm going to have a fun with the crowd out there. If I'm supposed to be intense, and this is again like a blood feud, still deep down inside I'm relaxed, and then I don't blow up. But when I first started wrestling, and every match was just me nervous to the 10th degree, I'd be in the lockup and I'd be blown up. So
and it's amazing that you can do. I've seen people blow up walking to the ring.
Yep.
And that's when it doesn't matter whether there's 20,000 or 60 or 100. It's because you're so locked up inside that you're just taking a shallow breath. I mean, but there's also some more to it than just a physiological exchange of oxygen through the lungs. Because in theory, you're in great shape. But all of a sudden, you add the crowd and you add the fact that you're uptight, you just blow the hell up.
Yeah, like the anxiety and the pressure that you had. Like I used to be, when I first started wrestling, it was the best thing I ever did. I used to be a big pre-workout guy before I wrestled. And now I realized I'm already jazzed up and excited enough and love this enough and have enough adrenaline. I don't need anything extra before I go out. Like for me, a lot of people ask like what my pre-match routine is.
What is it?
I'm not a big like do a ton of squats, do a ton of push-ups. I'm walking back and forth and doing some really deep breathing. I might even do some yoga poses almost. I'm trying to get in this relaxed state of mind, not this like super jazzed up, because I know the second I walk through the curtain, I'm going to be ready to go and the adrenaline's going to be flowing.
Here's one. My pre-match routine changed from my Stunning Steve days in Tennessee to my Stone Cold days. When I was Stunning Steve in Tennessee, the name given to me by Dutch Mantell, had long blonde hair, pretty good body. So, man, I'd do about 50, 60 push-ups before I went out, kind of pump up the pecs, shoulders, tries a little bit. So I'd go out there. I was green as grass, but a pretty good-looking kid. So I figured, okay, if I got a little bit of a body, and I was in real good shape, that's helping me. But the longer you're in Tennessee, we call it the Nutrisystem territory, because everybody went there, lost weight, because you ain't making no money. So, man, after eating potatoes for I don't know how long, I trash can the potatoes, and I just going to limber up a little bit, then I go to the ring. In WWF, I just hang out. I'd normally be talking to China or Triple H or somebody. I just move my arms around like this. I'd have my little water bottle. And a lot of guys would baby all up. Baby oil is a pain in the ass because it's so slippery and unsafe. Because I was so ashy, because I'm just naturally ashy, I would pour water on myself just to make myself unashy, and I would look cool because I'm fixing to go beat somebody's ass. Right. So I don't want to look ashy. So, and this is back in the days when we tanned, because, if I looked white, that wasn't great, so I had to have a good tan, put the water on, go to the ring. That was my pre-match routine. My favorite routine that I used to read about was Jake the Snake Roberts, sitting against the wall, smoking a cigarette, stand up, take a drag off a cigarette, put it out with his toe of his boot, grab his snake, throw it over his shoulder, and walk to the ring.
That's awesome.
Hey, Steve and Adam, you can both answer this. You'll answer it. Do you have a favorite move outside of your finish you love to do in the ring? This is from Zach.
A favorite move that I like to do in the ring.
Just something go-to that you dig.
Yeah. For me, I mean, lately too. It's funny actually. We were talking last week about that blood match with Kyle O'Reilly where I was bleeding all over the place, and that was the first time I used the figure 4 as like an alternate finish for me. And ever since then, at that point, I hadn't really had a submission that I worked into my matches or into my structure. So to have a submission that I can play off of and a new body part that I could work in addition to the neck, because my finish is a brain buster to the knee, so it's a neck thing. I loved adding that to my matches because it gives me a whole new dynamic of ways I can structure and put together my matches. Like I love the idea of being able to start on the neck with a guy and then that guy not taking it anymore and starting to fight back and going, okay, I got to pick another body part and then go into the knee, but then also remembering that if I want to, I can go back to the neck later. So I really do like doing the figure 4 for the reason of being able to add those layers to my match that I felt that I needed.
And, if you watch a lot of old Flair matches, he'd start with a preliminary body part, but he'd always end up working a leg.
Yep.
The shoulder from behind, the kicks, the sit-down things from the second rope, and ultimately the figure 4.
Right.
But he'd work the other body part first so he could stay mobile, get in the high spot, shine him up, then start grinding down.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, because if I love that concept and that prospect or idea of, again, like working a body part, thinking, okay, this isn't working, I'll go to another one. And again, like you said, though, for match structure, the idea of I don't need to just kill and destroy the knee immediately so the babyface can still shine up on me nice and be mobile and do whatever he'd like to do. But then later on, I can go to that knee and really, really put a pounding on it.
If you're in the market for a car, then you need to check out TrueCar.com and the TrueCar app. TrueCar gives you the pricing information you need to feel confident about your purchase. When you register at TrueCar, you'll see what other people in your local market paid for the car you want. From there, you can connect with a local TrueCar certified dealer and enjoy a more confident car buying experience. TrueCar shows you real pricing on actual inventory, so you see competitive pricing offered to you by TrueCar certified dealers for vehicles that are actually on their lots. TrueCar makes car buying easy, no matter if you're looking for a brand new or a used vehicle. There are over 500,000 pre-owned vehicles available from TrueCar certified dealers nationwide, and there are over 13,000 TrueCar certified dealers. And over 2 million cars have been sold to TrueCar users by the TrueCar certified dealer network. TrueCar users save an average of over $3,000 off MSRP. So when you're ready to buy a new or used car, visit TrueCar.com or download the TrueCar app to enjoy a better car buying experience. Some features not available in all states.
Steve Austin. Unleashed.
All right, here's one for you. Hey, Adam, here's a good question. I was wondering if you would rather go to the newly rebuilt TNA, Impact Wrestling, or WWE if you had to choose. By the way, I'm a longtime fan. Keep up the great work. So,
cool.
Newly rebuilt TNA or WWE, if you had to choose?
Yeah, well, obviously for me right now, as everybody knows, I'm contracted with Ring of Honor, and I'm over with New Japan Pro Wrestling, so I'm really happy there. But as far as if I had to pick, and this is no knock whatsoever on TNA, but I've said this before multiple times, if I were to sit here, Steve, and tell you that I don't want to have a WrestleMania moment someday, I'd be lying to you. That I fell in love with pro wrestling because of WWE. So, of course, someday, if I have the chance to go, whenever that timing might be, I think that's definitely something I'd like to do in my career. So, yeah, if I had to pick where I'd like to end up, strictly based on what made me a fan of pro wrestling and where I'd like to eventually end up, it's WWE for me. And I think the cool thing about pro wrestling in 2017 is you're seeing guys that you never thought were going to be in WWE and WWE. You're seeing guys who are in WWE leaving and going to places like Ring of Honor and New Japan Pro Wrestling. So, I mean, I think this case and this scenario is the epitome of never say never. It's certainly a possibility with the way that wrestling is going. It just comes down to what my goals are and where I stand here in a couple of months.
What are your goals?
Yeah.
Kind of a further answer to the question.
No, sure, it's great.
Is that prying too much?
No, I don't think so at all. I think certainly when I first got into wrestling when I was 18 or 19, I obsessed with where I was going to be in 10 years. I used to hyper-focus so much on I need to be in WWE, I need to have done this. I never really thought about money too much again because it was more about the love. But for me, I've noticed I've been a lot better and a lot happier and moving forward a lot more when I focus on everything almost like a day at a time. Because there's a lot for me in pro wrestling that I can't control. There's a lot that I can control, but there's a ton that I can't control. So if I focus too much on where I'm going to end up or who I'm going to be working for, I feel like I'll lose sight of what I should be focusing on, and that's how I can be a better worker, what I can do to make my game better and step my game up and stuff like that. So at the end of the day, my end goal is if I can make a living, a good living as a pro wrestler for many more years to come, I will have accomplished my dream.
And, and listening to you say that, I think it's a great answer, and you focusing on just being the best thing as you can be as far as a product, entertaining in the ring, and controlling things that you can control, everything will take care of itself.
Exactly.
Hey, man, here's one. Hey, Steve, my question for Adam Cole is, will we ever see Adam Cole versus Kenny Omega?
Oh, yeah. That's been quite the talked about match lately.
God dang, that'd be a barn burner. So
yeah. I definitely think that we're at a point now with myself and Kenny. There's been quite a bit of tension both in New Japan Pro Wrestling and in Ring of Honor and on the Young Bucks YouTube channel, Being the Elite, to where everyone questions who is the leader of the Bullet Club. Is it myself? Is it Kenny Omega? To me, it's two alpha males who just we butt heads and we don't see eye to eye all the time. So I certainly think if it's up to me and if it's up to Kenny Omega, sometime probably in the very near future, you're going to see Adam Cole versus Kenny Omega.
God dang, send me a message and let me know when it happens. I want to see that. I'll tell you what, I enjoyed that match with him and Okada so much.
Great
one
match.
of the damnedest things I'd ever seen. You two guys in there, the way you guys work, that would be a treat to watch. Here's one for you, kind of along the lines of, what we talked about earlier, but a little bit different. Would you like to start in NXT, or do you feel like you're ready for the main roster? Obviously, that's a WWE skewed question.
Sure.
So where do you see yourself if you were to go that route?
Yeah.
Do you need to go to NXT or main roster?
Yeah, hypothetically, if I were to go to WWE, I would like to go to NXT first. The reason being is I think, first of all, that entire system looks like a blast to me. The fans, the entire adjusting to that style or that product, continuing to find myself in the actual WWE system. And on top of that, I think the comfortability of starting in a place like NXT and potentially succeeding in a place like NXT would give me a lot of confidence if I were to go to Raw or SmackDown. So I think the perfect idea, obviously NXT is not the place that I would want to be for my entire career. I eventually, of course, would want to get on the main roster. But the idea of starting in NXT, developing Adam Cole in WWE in NXT, and then going to a Raw or SmackDown would be my ideal scenario.
I've heard a couple of high-level guys that did the NXT experience first and then go to the big roster, and they were extremely thankful that they went to the NXT experience to get them ready for the main roster gig, because it is, it's such a big stage, it can really be overwhelming no matter how accomplished you are.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's one from Chase. 2 questions. We already covered the Bay stuff. What is your favorite match of all time that you did not compete in? And I'm going to say that you can't say Austin versus Rock WrestleMania 17 or 15 because we've already talked about those. And I appreciate 17.
Sure.
It's a real honor to be able to inspire someone to get into business or whatever. But take that out of the equation. All-time favorite.
Yeah, all-time favorite match. Man, I got a lot of favorites that kind of stick out in my head. But if I were to say my favorite match, other than those two, for the reason of wanting to break in, I remember watching WrestleMania 25 with The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels, and at the time never seeing anything. The entire process of it being years in the making, it being these two guys going out and putting on a match that at this point pro wrestling fans have seen everything. They've seen it all. And for them to hook them and have them on so many of those false finishes in the go-home stretch, and the facial expression of The Undertaker when Shawn kicked out of the tombstone and looking with those eyes like he just could not comprehend that Shawn Michaels kicked out of this, and hearing the coolest thing to me too was the pop from the audience was so different than a normal. When Shawn kicked out of the tombstone, it wasn't like it was like this long extended conversation going on with the audience, realizing they were all watching something that was like once in a lifetime.
Right.
And that was how we all felt when we were watching it at home. I had been in the business at this point, but still watching that and thinking, if I could ever have something half as special as this, it would be the coolest thing in the world. So to me, that really sticks out as a really special, really awesome match to me for the emotion that they were able to get out of that crowd that night.
Man,
special.
And that was an unbelievable match. When you talk about an older school match like that, but I mean like relevant to my standards or up to my athletic ability. I don't know if I'm at their league as far as portraying it, but I could do that. But seeing that you're at a different level physically when you see the stuff that, like Kenny Omega's doing, stuff that you're doing, the 6-man that I talked about last week, all the crazy dynamics and psychology and the fact that there's character-driven moments in there, that level of stuff, you're able to still have older style matches that moved you at an emotional level as to why you like them. Because what really floats your boat? Is it the emotion of it? Is it the dynamic aspects of the athleticism? What is it really that hooks you as far as, God dang, that's badass?
Sure. I've always been emotionally driven when it comes to wrestling. Again, I love athleticism. It impresses me each and every, like when I watch, again, the Young Bucks or Kenny Omega, they blow my mind because they do stuff that I could never do. But again, when pro wrestling, and everyone knows that what we do is a performance, when two pro wrestlers are in the ring and they get 80,000, 90,000 people to be totally lost in that moment with a combination of facial expressions and a guy's selling or a kick out that they never thought was going to happen. It doesn't matter what move is being done.
Good.
It's the again, the emotion behind it and just the fans looking at each other. Like, again, to bring up emotion, one of my favorite moments ever was Brock Lesnar beating The Undertaker for the sheer emotion that the fans had. Like, fans actually leaving the venue and crying, and being so upset, and the facial expressions on all these fans. Like, it's the coolest thing in the world.
My computer went off. Whenever you start drinking again, I owe you a beer. I'm actually not drinking anymore right now. I'm trying to get back in shape. Good answer. Here's one, and this comes from Megan. Any wrestler you'd really like to work with that you haven't worked with before?
Yeah. For me, my number one guy would be Tanahashi from New Japan Pro Wrestling. Like, watching him, like, this guy is a bona fide rock star over in Japan. He can't even walk down the street without being stopped. The way he carries himself. I've always, there was a Wrestle Kingdom show where Nakamura wrestled Ibushi in the semi-main event, and then the main event was Okada and Tanahashi. And a lot of wrestling fans thought Nakamura and Ibushi was the better match. It was a tremendous match. It was amazing. But for the emotional reason, again, the way that Tanahashi sells and fires up and his facial expressions, I loved Tanahashi and Okada even more just because of the way that Tanahashi carries himself. He's a guy that I feel like I would learn a ton from. He's a guy who I think is the best in New Japan. He for me, is my number one guy I'd love to work with. He's just awesome. That's awesome.
Interesting. All right, let's go to the next question. Look at my phone. It's still ringing.
Still going.
Sarasota, Florida. Leave me alone. I'm trying to have a podcast with Adam Cole. You believe this? Here's one. After becoming such a big part of PWG, which you're going to do tonight.
Yep.
Because it already happened by the time you listen to this podcast. Can you imagine stepping away from it? Well, of course, you got to be able to imagine stepping away from it.
Right.
So you got to go to the next level.
Sure.
But you've got to appreciate your time there and the opportunities it afforded you.
Of course. And it certainly, again, like you said, you got to walk away from it eventually if your goals are to move forward. But it will be tough to walk away from just because PWG was kind of the start for me that got me noticed on the independent scene. Like even before I became Ring of Honor champion for the first time, I was the PWG world champion. And I got used to the pressure of being in the main event and following a card that was so stacked and having to think outside the box and make sure that I'm always doing new things. And again, those fans are some of the absolute best fans in the world. There's only about 400 or 500 people in that building, but they are fans of being known as the best wrestling fans. They have the time of their lives, and I really feel like I've grown as a wrestler in that company. So it'll definitely be hard to walk away from when that day comes.
Hey, speaking of you being the PWG champion, how does it feel to be the only 3-time Ring of Honor champion?
It's pretty surreal. Looking back as a fan, when I was watching Ring of Honor and looking at these guys and considering them the absolute best in-ring workers in the world, I idolize these guys. And then if you look at the elite list of guys who have been Ring of Honor champions: Samoa Joe, CM Punk, Daniel Bryan, Seth Rollins. I mean, it's an elite list of guys. So to have a company like Ring of Honor have me or give me the ball and say, we want you to be our guy for a record 3 times is so humbling, and it's also really motivating. It's like that kick in the butt that says, okay, they're giving me the ball. I have to do everything I can to impress. I'm representing the company right now. But that's a pressure that I actually like. I like when I have pressure on me like that because I feel like it brings out the best in me and it drives me to be better and forces me to be better. So I love it. But yeah, very motivating, very humbling.
How'd you feel in losing that belt, that championship, to Christopher Daniels?
Yeah, that was probably the coolest. It was the coolest experience I've had losing the Ring of Honor World Championship, because I look at a guy like Christopher Daniels, who has been with Ring of Honor since the beginning. He represents and embodies what independent wrestling is all about. The guy is as humble as can be. He's continued to reinvent himself time and time again. He can still do things that athletically I can't do. The guy blows me away. And again, he represents everything that's good to me about pro wrestling. So for him to finally get that, and I know deep down how much it means to him, and to be the guy that was able to give him that moment, was just as cool for me as winning the championship. It was just as cool dropping the title to Christopher Daniels.
I can understand exactly what you're talking about. I dig it.
Yeah.
Hey, Adam, this is from Patrick in Cincinnati. I travel a lot for work. Nutrition is hard on the road. What is the go-to place to eat on the road?
Yeah, the big thing for me is you really can do okay at like a Denny's or an IHOP. You really can.
Waffle House too?
Yep, exactly. Waffle House too. When you get those breakfast foods, those eggs and the chicken breast or the steak and eggs, you can really get experimental. So if you have time to sit down and eat, a place like a Denny's or an IHOP always works good for me, or a Cracker Barrel is really good too.
Cracker Barrel is. Michelle sent this in. Did I already ask you, what was your favorite match that you were in?
Oh, no, you've not asked me this.
Okay, what is your favorite match that you participated in?
Yeah, for me...
Man, there's been some barn burners.
Yeah, there's been a couple. Part of me
more than a couple. You're talking a 3-time Ring of Honor PWG champion. Come on, man, give yourself a little credit. Trying to play the humble white meat baby face. You're running heel.
Part of me wants to say the match where I bled in New York, but since we've already talked about that a lot, I will say probably my favorite, again because of the moment, was the first time that I won the Ring of Honor World Championship. This was a really cool moment. It happened in Philadelphia in the National Guard Armory, and I went to my first Ring of Honor show when I was in high school with my 2 best friends, who are still my best friends to this day. And we went and we watched Ring of Honor for the first time, and we were blown away. We were so motivated to train someday, and we said, "Oh God, we're gonna do this. We're gonna do this." So fast forward 6 years later, and I'm in the ring in that exact same building, wrestling for the Ring of Honor World Championship. I win the championship, and my two friends who went with me were sitting in the exact same seats that we sat in. So that was like such a cool full circle moment for me, where I was like, wow, life is crazy sometimes.
So who'd you win that championship from, the first one?
Yeah, I beat Michael Elgin. There was a tournament where Jay Briscoe had to relinquish the championship. Only time it's ever been done before, but he had to relinquish it for an injury. So we had a tournament that led to me winning the championship. I was white meat babyface at the time, and then actually turned heel right after that and go into a feud with Jay Briscoe after that.
This question comes from Impact Monaco. What is who is your favorite opponent in your entire career, and why?
Yeah, my favorite opponent in my entire career, and we talked about this the other week, is AJ Styles for the reason of, again, everybody knows how good and how talented he is. But when I was out with my shoulder surgery, I had not been in a wrestling ring, like stepped inside a wrestling ring for 4 months. So I get there that day. I know I'm wrestling AJ Styles in the semi-main event, and I'm a nervous wreck, obviously, wondering if I lost a step, wondering about my wind, wondering about all that stuff. And AJ looked at me and he said, "Don't worry, man. I'll take care of you. We'll have a great match." And we did. We had a great match. And AJ deserves so much of the credit for that, because again, this is a guy who hadn't been in a wrestling ring for 4 months and was a nervous wreck. So AJ, again, it's just a testament to AJ's timing, his execution of things, him knowing where to place things and why, and me just kind of going along for the ride and listening to AJ at that time. So he for me, was just, he made it feel effortless. He made it feel totally effortless.
Okay, so here's a question. I'm assuming you were working baby.
Yeah. Yeah, I was working babyface that night. We were doing me just returning from injury and realizing that the fans were going to be positive about me returning. It was a surprise, so we kind of owned the fact that I was a babyface. So it was a babyface match, yep.
Oh, so he's working baby too?
He was working baby also, yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Which you do see quite a bit in Ring of Honor. You see quite a bit of that babyface versus babyface.
Well, a lot of people get hung up on that. Say, oh, somebody's got to be the heel. No, it doesn't have to be the case.
Right.
As long as it's a competitive match, people are going to just fall in line and just go with the flow.
Sure, and the main event, of course, featured a heel versus a babyface, and most of the card that night was heel versus babyface. But every now and then in Ring of Honor, for strictly dream match selling DVDs or selling VODs or selling tickets, they will do a strong top babyface versus top babyface match.
Man, back in my days in USWA, man, we were working like National Guards, little building and stuff like that, and two babyfaces on the card at the time in the territory were Matt Bourne, who used to be Doink, passed away, against Jimmy Jack Funk, and not of the Funk family, of the Portland wrestling family. Anyway, Matt Bourne and Jimmy Jack Funk, they were having a 15-minute babyface Broadway. And they were stealing the show every single night. It was unbelievable. The two guys, they were both very, very good workers, but I mean, they were stealing the show in a babyface match and a 15-minute Broadway on top of that. And so it's amazing, what two guys can do. They can, first of all, work their asses off, but on top of that, have chemistry.
Right, exactly. And at the end of the day, too, our fans do appreciate, especially on like the Ring of Honor level, the athleticism of two guys just going toe-to-toe, trying to outdo the other one. I think definitely there's a time and a place for babyface matches.
Adam, how did it all come about, you joining the Bullet Club and becoming one of the front men of the group? And what was it like transitioning from the U.S.-based wrestling to the Japanese style and the difference of life on the road in the States and Japan? That's a bunch of questions.
Yeah, that's a good question.
How did it come about you joining the Bullet Club?
Yeah, what had happened was, for a long time now, ever since Bullet Club started, I've been really close personal friends with the Young Bucks. And the Young Bucks had been saying for forever, like, Adam, it would be great if you were in the Bullet Club. You'd be a perfect fit for what we do and what we're trying to do. Then there came a point in time where it was Wrestle Kingdom, and AJ Styles, Nakamura, Luke Gallows, and Carl Anderson all dropped the bomb on New Japan saying that they're going to go to WWE. So Bullet Club had 3 frontmen who were now out of the group. So Bullet Club desperately needed someone or something to kind of jazz it back up and get some buzz around it. So there there was a bunch of names being thrown around, and New Japan decided that they thought I would be a good fit. They wanted to make sure that the Bullet Club influence in the United States was still a strong one. So I ended up joining the group at a Ring of Honor pay-per-view as a surprise. This was also timed well because I had disappeared for a month and had been radio silent, hadn't tweeted anything, Facebooked anything, so a lot of people thought I was going to WWE. So then the lights go out and the lights come on, and I'm in the ring with a Bullet Club shirt, and that was kind of how the whole thing started. I've loved the adjustment. Teaming with those guys is a blast. Getting to go over and wrestle in Japan has been a blast. What was the last part of that question?
How'd you get to be one of the front men of the group?
Yeah. Well, that kind of I think that happened. Actually, I think they kind of made that decision the night that I joined the group. It was like when that moment happened and the crowd reacted the way that they did, and the promos that we had done afterwards, that was when New Japan and Ring of Honor kind of decided. Ring of Honor had already promoted me as a top guy, but that was when New Japan was like, okay, we need to have this guy as a front man as well, because the crowd received it so well and responded to it so well.
Part of that question, again, was what was it like transitioning from the U.S.-based wrestling to the Japanese style?
Yeah.
Because is there a transition? Because, I mean, Ring of Honor is very similar.
Sure. Yeah. There's definitely a transition, but not in the way I think that this guy is thinking.
To me, it's almost more crowd-based.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The big thing that you have to get used to when you're over in Japan, at least this is based on my experience, is the first couple times I'm there, the crowd is rather quiet. And they're paying attention to what you're doing. They're not interested, but they're just paying attention and getting used to you. So it's making sure that you're comfortable in that fact of establishing yourself over in Japan. I've noticed now from the first time I went there to the last time I was just there, we had a double shot in Korakuen Hall. And the difference between the first time I was in New Japan to this last time was night and day, because now the audience is familiar with me and knows what I do and knows who Adam Cole is. So for a lot of guys, it's getting comfortable with the idea of going out there and wrestling and not having a crowd chanting and yelling and screaming the whole time, and knowing that if you do take your time, they are paying attention. I even think in Japan you can take your time even more than in the States.
Really?
I think you can go even slower, because it's over in Japan, it's like when the match goes over that 20-minute mark, there's this change in the room. It's like they know they're watching something epic and special, and they know that we're exhausted and we're tired, so they become more invested and hang on every false finish even more. It's really, really cool to be a part of.
But is that because is a Japanese crowd more respectful? And I say this with respect to all of the United States crowds I wrestle in front of, but in the fact that you're not going to get, dare say any, if even some, boring. You know what I'm saying?
Yep, never in a million years. There definitely is. Yeah, there definitely is that amount of. I mean, you can put a heat on a babyface for what feels like 10 minutes, and they're still paying attention the entire time, and they realize that the babyface is in peril and in a lot of pain. They're totally invested in respect. You even see that too, like when you meet the fans afterwards. The fans here in the States are amazing, but the fans in Japan literally treat you like you're an athlete hero. You know, the respect they have for you is just out of this world and really cool. Really cool.
It's interesting to see, because are you a UFC fan?
Big time.
You are?
Yeah.
God dang, I'm great. I'm glad to hear that, because so many times in front of a MMA crowd or a UFC crowd, because that's the promotion that I watch.
Yeah.
I get all the pay-per-views. So sometimes two lights out fighters will be out there having a badass fight, but it's just maybe it's not a stand-up. Or maybe but the two guys are just the way their styles kind of cancel each other out. On what you're seeing isn't exactly what you'd like to see, but it's the match, it's the chess match that's happening between these two badass fighters. The crowd will start booing them out of the building. It's like, dude, these guys are giving you everything they got.
Right.
You get in there with one of these guys and see how it goes down. Right. And so they'll start booing it because they want them to stand up and bang. And so there's sometimes a UFC crowd, and love them to death, but they can be the most fickle crowds that you can work in front of. And these guys are fighting in front of.
Exactly.
They ain't working them, they're fighting them.
Right, yeah, like if they're on the ground and again, it doesn't look like much action is going on, but really they're working so hard. And like even going back to New Japan, that's the really cool thing also, is two guys can be on the ground and someone like Shibata can be struggling in a guillotine choke and then eventually reach out and get a double wrist lock and start turning it, and the crowd will be going along with it the entire time because they know that they're working on the mat the whole time. The New Japan crowd is really smart about that kind of stuff too.
Going back to your karate background, when you were a kid, how far did you take that, and did that help with your wrestling career?
I think it definitely did. For me, I got up to a brown belt, so I was like right before black, because then I actually started wrestling. I started amateur wrestling in elementary school, middle school, and high school. So then I started focusing on that. But I definitely think it did, because you're getting thrown and stuff like that, and almost subconsciously learning how to fall. It was cool to just be physical at that age and just kind of roll around a little bit. And just, again, staying active was something I always wanted to do because I knew I wanted to be a wrestler. So the more active I was doing anything like karate or wrestling or anything like that, I think definitely helped.
But I think anything that's structure-based or helps you with footwork or just with striking or anything of repetition in the athletic vein is training, and you can build upon that with your pro wrestling skills. It might be entirely different, but just having that base knowledge will transfer.
And also, we used to do things called katas, where it would be memorized punches and kicks and things like that. That definitely subconsciously helped in the long run, for sure.
I think that helps a lot of stunt guys who have karate backgrounds because they lean on that. And I'm thinking, man, how are these guys coming up with this? Because, man, I don't know any, that type stuff.
Yeah.
And so when you watch the stunt guys, that's what they do. But also people with the karate background or whatever, because of the katas and stuff, they have something they can always go to or lean on, in times or build upon just based on what the fight calls for.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, man, how do you feel social media affects professional wrestling today and people's ability to buy into a character? And that comes from Anthony. Is social media messing up the business, or is it hindering people from the ability to buy into a character? Expand upon that.
I think it 100% can mess up a character, but that's if the person who's using the social media is not using the tool the way that it should be used. Because in many ways, social media has helped so many pro wrestlers and so many pro wrestling promotions because of the accessibility that everybody has. I say this all the time. If pro wrestling was as readily available as it is now when I was a kid, I would have never gone outside. I would have had zero social life. I would have just been on my computer or on TV, just watching wrestling all the time. But it definitely has helped certain guys make a name for themselves. It's helped a lot of guys get over. If guys commit to their character on social media and stick to it and, promote themselves with videos and things like that. I know guys for sure on the independents who have gotten booked at a place like PWG strictly based on a YouTube clip that got like a ton of views. So social media can definitely help people. If you don't use it properly, it can hurt you though as well.
Here's a question, and then we'll just shoot the breeze from here on out.
Sure.
Shannon Harris. Adam opened some of his promos by saying, "Who's ready for story time with Adam Cole, baby?" Where did the story time concept come from?
That was a complete offshoot. That was not a planned thing whatsoever, which is cool because that's always kind of where some of the best stuff happens. What happened was I was in Chicago, and we had beat down a guy on our roster named Hanson, and I was in there with Mike Bennett and Maria Kanellis, and we're sitting there and we're putting the boots to him, and I grabbed the microphone and I was feeling real smarmy, and for whatever reason, "Who's ready for story time with Adam Cole, baby?" went in my head because they were sitting down like Indian style. And so then I sat down with them, and then the crowd started chanting story time, and I was like, oh, maybe I have something here. So now I've just made it my opening promo line 9 times out of 10.
So what's the rest of the day going to look like for you? Because as we speak, this is 2 weeks behind, but you'll have wrestled PWG.
Yeah.
On a normal day, you've got a cut on your forehead right now.
Right.
But on a normal day, you'll get to the building and just chill out and
Yeah. Normally for me, I get to the building. I always try to eat the second I get there because for me, even to this day, 9 years in, when people start filing in, that's when the nerves start coming, and the last thing I want to do is put food in my stomach. So for me, it's a lot of relaxing, catching up with everybody, talking to everyone. At a place like PWG, we get our merchandise ready. We'll get that for when the people come in, and we'll talk to them. And then other than that, really the cool thing about PWG is there's a monitor in the back, which is nice. And independent wrestling, lots of of times you don't have a monitor. But a lot of us sit there and we'll watch the entire show and just kind of support everyone and be pumped for the show. We can feel the energy in the building. It's a cool atmosphere, really cool atmosphere.
Hey, man, I saw the six-man match I alluded to last week. Will Ospreay was a part of that match. Is he independent or is he Ring of Honor? I mean, is he just floating around doing his thing?
Yeah, Will Ospreay is now a Ring of Honor New Japan guy.
Okay.
So I mean, he still obviously works independent shows back home for him. But as far as in the States, it's Ring of Honor and PWG for him, and then over in Japan, it's New Japan. So I'm really glad we grabbed a guy like him.
Man, that guy seems very talented in the ring.
Yeah.
What kind of wrestling background did he come from?
I do not know his background. His athleticism is out of this world. You'd think he'd have to do gymnastics or something. Like his ability to move his body the way that it does and the timing that he has. It's crazy, too, to say this, that he's, like 23, 24 years old. He's such a kid. He hasn't even scratched the surface on what he can do yet. And the fact he's made the waves that he's done. And you even see, too, from Will Ospreay when he was 20 or 21 to the Will Ospreay now, he's smarter. He knows where to place his stuff.
Well, he's improved since the match he had with Ricochet until now from the six-man that you guys had. When was that match?
Gosh, that match was September.
Okay.
September, I think. Yeah.
But he's improved since then.
For sure. Absolutely. And again, working with guys over in New Japan, working with guys in Ring of Honor, that's what helped me. That's what I was so thankful for. When I got snatched up by Ring of Honor, I was 21, 22, and I was so thankful because, again, you can work with really great guys on the independents, but when you're working with a bunch of guys who are at your skill level, you don't really improve as much as you would like to. I was working with a bunch of guys like Christopher Daniels and Roderick Strong and Jay Briscoe, all these guys who've been doing this a lot longer than me. So in turn, I was able to improve a lot more because I'm working with these good guys. So Will getting snatched up young by a Ring of Honor in New Japan is just great for his development.
Man, one of the things I was watching in the six-man match and some of the highlight clips of you, the Young Bucks were in some of these clips, and y'all would do a spot. Can't remember how the spot happens, but those guys lean in to kiss you on each of your cheeks. And I think one of the things you dip down or whatever, they end up kissing each other. Right. Now, who invented this kiss spot? It's fantastic. I love it. It blew me out of my seat.
Yeah.
Y'all come up with this. It was great.
That's all. The Young Bucks come up with so many different hilarious outside the box things to the point where I've come up with stuff for myself even in singles matches because I start to think the way that they do and the way they put stuff together. But just for a while it was one of those things where at one point we pinned a guy and they kissed me on the cheek and a bunch of people took the picture and was like, oh, that's hilarious. So then we thought, because lots of times I'll do the hit the ropes, put a guy in a chin lock, or the Young Bucks will do the back flip into a back rake. So we were thinking, how can we do this as a tandem? So me putting them in the camel clutch, they come up with the idea of let's hit the ropes a bunch and then kiss you on the cheek. We'd established it so much to that point that when I did get dipped down and they end up kissing each other, it was like the double reaction. So it's just the ridiculous stuff that we come up with to entertain the people.
As a performer, as a wrestler, as an entertainer, where do you draw the line at what you will or won't do?
See, the thing is, for me, I'm a terrible person to ask because I don't think there is a line that can be drawn. Like, I love the idea of doing anything for the performance to get a reaction. There's nothing anyone could say to offend me. As long as someone is not legitimately physically harmed, there's nothing, like, emotionally that could affect me. I'm so, like, all for anything that's buzzworthy or crazy. I understand that we have to be careful of what we do, and obviously I'm very aware of that. But there's nothing to me. I love stuff that's edgy and risque and stuff like that. So for me, I don't really know if there is a line, Steve.
Man, it's funny because I hear a lot of people talk about how risque and over the top the Attitude Era was back in the day.
Yeah.
And some people refer to it in a real negative light. And I'm like, I mean, some of this sexual innuendo is a little over the top. Weren't up my alley, but man, I was straightforward. I don't say violent based, but physicality based.
Yeah.
And aggressive testosterone. Like, that was stone cold. But, I mean, did any part of the Attitude Era offend you?
Oh, me? Oh, not at all. Not at all. I loved, and again, me being a kid and watching it, I was just thoroughly entertained by everything. I can't really think of a time where anything in wrestling has really made me go, okay, that really offended me, or that, I mean, I'd probably have to rack my brain around it. But no, there was nothing as a child, nothing as an adult that I've seen where I've been like, okay, that's ridiculous.
Well, my mom,
I love it.
Obviously, my mother's a lot older than I am, but my mom told me one time, I think Monday Night Raw was going on, she came to see us in Houston, and hell, I ended up, I was working with Mick Foley, Mankind, that night, and we finished the match. It was at the Houston Summit. It was sold out. And right after the match, I had God dang it, it's some kind of a staph infection.
Yeah.
In my elbow. And about to take me to the hospital, and my mom looked at me. She goes, "You okay?" I said, "Yeah, I'll be okay. Just go to the hospital for a few days." And after that, I wore a big Band-Aid because the next Sunday was pay-per-view where I wrestled Kane in the first blood match.
King of the Ring, right?
But she goes, "Steve," he goes, she was watching Monday Night Raw. She goes, if you were around now, I wouldn't let you watch you on TV. Meaning the Stone Cold character that I had become and embodied, was that she would detract her son from watching me do what I did.
Oh, there's definitely been stuff that, like, this was very embarrassing, and I won't actually say what I used to say, but in PWG years ago, I like the number one or one of the number one viewed YouTube videos of me on YouTube is me saying, "Suck my..." Yeah. You guessed it. And my mother went to show her coworkers what I do, saying my son's a pro wrestler, and that's one of the first videos that pops up. So that was really embarrassing. That was the only thing she's ever questioned me on. I don't know if I like you doing that.
People, one of the number one things I always get asked about is just stories on the road. And
sure.
A lot of times, some of the stuff we go through, people won't believe. What's some of your most outlandish stories from the road?
Yeah, the number one thing that sticks into my head is again, when you first start wrestling, there's a lot of sacrifices you have to make, and one of those things when I first started going overseas was. Lots of times, these guys were so cheap on bringing you over that they wouldn't give you a work visa either. So you had to lie about why you were there, or say that you were there to train, or there as a college student, or whatever. And I went over to England one time, and I explained how I was there for Oktoberfest, and then I was going to go home a week later, and all this jazz. And the guy was listening to me and talking to me, and he goes, "Okay." He goes, "Yeah, just go sit down over there on that bench over there." And I already knew I was in trouble. So I'm sitting down with all these other people. About 45 minutes later, this guy comes and grabs me, and he pulls me into a room, like an interrogation looking room. And he sits down, he folds his papers, he lays it down, and his first thing he says is he looks me right in the eyes and goes, "What's your connection with the Filipino government?" I was like, "What?" And he goes, "Do you know anyone from the Philippines?" I was with two other guys too. And I said, No, I don't know anyone from the Philippines. The other guy says, "Yeah, no, I don't." Sammy Callahan was the other guy. And he goes, "Well, I might know somebody from the Philippines." That was the floodgates that were opened. We were in there for 5 hours. We were fingerprinted. We got mug shots taken of us. It was this whole huge ordeal. Eventually, they had posters of us and found out we were wrestling and on the wrestling show. And thank God they ended up letting us through. But that was a big scare because, if you have deported on your passport, that's never a fun situation to be in for a young pro wrestler.
Why the blue hell does Sammy say, "I might"?
I have
you're ribbing me, right?
No idea.
You never say that.
No idea.
It's like going through security line these days and mentioning anything that you're not supposed to mention that's going to get you, booted out of line because of the obvious, how PC and everything is to the airports these days for the obvious reasons with all the stupid stuff.
Sure.
You just don't say certain things.
Right.
Hey, anything about bullets, anything about bombs, anything about explosions, even if you're joking with your friends, if somebody hears that, you're going to get yanked.
I got a funny story that I don't think Jay Briscoe will mind me telling because he's told quite a few people, speaking of, going through with TSA agents. So me and Jay Briscoe were in the middle of our feud. It was a year-long feud. We were going to pay it off in New Orleans in ladder war and have this big ladder match where Jay Briscoe made his own version of the Ring of Honor World Championship, and I had mine, similar to the Smoking Skull title. Yeah. And we had both belts above the ring. We're ready to build to this thing. And Jay Briscoe thought to come to the ring, he wants to come to the ring with a hollow hand grenade around his neck. So he brings it with him on the carry-on, and he says, hey, this isn't real and all this. I'm just going to put it through. And the guy mustn't have been paying attention because he said, that's all right. I'm in front of the line, and I get through security, and Jay's behind me. He puts it through, and you just see the lady push it through the thing. She looks back at it and goes, oh, dear God, that's real, and sprints away. And Jay's like, no, wait. In seconds, like 12 cops are all around Jay Briscoe. He almost got arrested just trying to bring this hand grenade with him. Obviously, he couldn't take the hand grenade with him, but he thought it was a good idea at the time.
God dang, one of the things that used to always bother me was going across to work in Canada. And I love working in Canada, but you talk about a tough-ass border because so many of the guys back in the old school days will get popped with pot or whatever going across. And so, and pot smells, very loud.
Yeah.
It's just very easy to detect. An old story, and I think I can tell this story because it's been around for a million years. But Iron Sheik was over. I guess Sheik used to love to smoke dope. Crossing the border, and one of the other boys was in line, and so I had about, a quarter-ounce bag of dope, and he put it in a dude's bag in front of him. And so ends up, everybody makes it across the border okay. Once they've crossed the border, he goes in his bag and pulls his gimmick out. And the guy goes, I can't remember who the guy was. He goes, Sheik, what are you doing, man? If I'd have got busted with that, I'd be doing time. I'd gotten in a whole lot of trouble. And Sheik just said, better jabroni get caught than Iron Sheik. Thank you, Baba. And I've heard a million Sheik stories, but that one always stands out to me. It's like, you put a bag of dope in somebody's bag. That's not ballsy. that's just flat out. You're messing with the guy's livelihood.
Yeah.
And so the guy was really pissed, but,
of course.
Better jabroni get caught. And Sheik, if that's not a true story, please correct me. But I know for a fact it's a total shoot.
Yeah, Canada is I think it's amazing of all the places that we get to travel. It's amazing. Canada is by far the toughest.
It is.
They stop everybody every single time. Well, you can imagine too. There's these, 12 wrestlers in a 13-passenger van packed in with all these bags. Of course, that screams suspicion right away. Even if we have the right paperwork, they still want to look through everything. We look like a band of misfits together. So, but yeah, every single time we get stopped.
I got to give them props for running a tight border.
Exactly. Right. Better than being too loose. Unlike a place like Germany, they don't even look at your passport. For every single time I've gone to Germany to wrestle, I hand them my passport. The guy doesn't even look at me. He just grabs it, stamps it, and I go right through. So that's easy peasy.
Man, I was filming a show in Mexico a couple of years ago. It was called Redneck Island. It used to be on CMT. And we would film 3 different locations. But just flying across to Mexico, when you go across, you've got to, before you clear customs, put your bags through the scanner again, right?
Right.
And so as you walk through, the bags are going through the x-ray machine, and then there's a red button. Everybody that walks through the metal detector doesn't walk through a metal detector to get in the country after you've already deplaned.
Okay.
You got to go through yet another detector, and then the guy says in Spanish, he goes, "You must push the button." I'm always thinking, okay, if I push a button, what's going to blow up?
Right.
Like, what's the gimmick? And the guy says, push a button. And I'm a wrestler, right? I've been in the wrestling business, forever. And I'm thinking there's a rib on the other end. And because I see the potential, the way it's colored, it has the potential to light up red.
Right.
And so what it is a random button. So if you push it, if it lights up red, you get checked.
Oh.
If it doesn't light up, you go through.
Got it.
But so I don't understand what's going on first. And so I go through. First time I'd been to Mexico in a long time. The guy said, push the button. I looked at him and said, no, you push it. It's still my turn, but you push it. He goes, no, you have to push it. So I said, all right, I'll push it. I pushed the button, nothing happened. I went through. Sure enough, the guy behind me pushed the button and it lit up red, so he got checked. And through I didn't have any gimmicks in my bag, nothing like that was going to incriminate me, but just, dude, when they pull your stuff out in Mexico, it's in front of the world. My wife came over to see me. She said, do you want me to bring you anything? I said, yeah. I said, the rice over here is terrible. Bring me 2 bags of jasmine rice. Quality jasmine rice, Adam. That's all I'm talking about. Right. So she brought a butcher knife because my wife likes to cook. So to cut my chicken and all that stuff, she brought a knife, 2 bags of rice, some other vegetables and junk fresh from the United States. So she goes across. Sure enough, Bam, pushes the red button, gets scanned, and they starts going through her bag. And, of course, the person over is not bilingual because there's no Americans going over, right?
Right.
And then the lady picks up the bag of rice like she'd never seen it before in her life. Got a kilo of cocaine, jasmine rice. She goes, look at this. Oh, what this? And I'm thinking, I'm putting myself in my wife's shoes. They're going to be too small for size 8. I'm thinking, what's this? It's friggin' rice.
Right.
What, are you kidding me? This is Mexico. You're acting like you don't speak English, but if you can't tell that's rice, you don't need to be working the TSA on the Mexico side.
Now were they
You think
freaking?
it was a kilo of coke?
Right. Were they freaking out about the knives though? Did that?
No, they didn't even notice the knives.
Of course.
That's the thing.
Of course.
Yeah, so she could have butchered anybody, but she wasn't going to she wasn't going to cook anybody no rice.
But that.
So and because one of the bags was a little bit opened, and so they kept both bags of rice. I'm saying to my wife before she could tell me the story, she'd bring my rice. She goes, "Oh, you're not going to believe it. They held it up at the border. Why would you hold up somebody's rice?" But anyway, I mean, dude, this dude when she was getting ready to go back, there was some dude who was real sketchy looking, had a prescription bottle. He had a lot of pot in there. All of a sudden, he goes to the guy looks at the thing, and he gets buds in the prescription bottle.
Yeah.
And he was sketchy as hell, wigging out on something. They just let him through like it's nobody's business. My wife can't bring me no rice. Right. So, that's my Mexico travel story. Hey, God dang it, let's wrap this thing up and ride off in the sunset one more time because this show is going to play before you guys go down to Lakeland, Florida on April 1st. It's Ring of Honor, Adam Cole. You know you're going to be wrestling?
Yeah, actually, it's not announced yet, but this match that will be announced, I promise you, is going to be one that's going to make our fans and anyone who's looking to check out Ring of Honor, they're going to be really excited about it. It's a first-time ever match, so it is going to be exciting. But again, WrestleMania weekend is the best weekend of the year. Ring of Honor is going to bring out the big guns like we always do. It's going to be in Lakeland, Florida. It's going to be awesome. It's a huge venue we're running, so I'm sure we have seats available, and it's definitely something you're going to want to check out. Again, you can go to ROHWrestling.com for more info on that, and then you can see if we're coming to your town. But specifically, Supercard of Honor weekend, April 1st, Lakeland, Florida. It's going to be awesome.
Okay, and I'm a WWE guy, so don't forget about WrestleMania. It's on the 2nd. And you can go to WWE.com to find out where you can get tickets. Ticketmaster, everybody knows about WrestleMania, but I got to get my stuff in, too.
Of course.
Adam, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you for 2 weeks in a row or 2 episodes in a row, whatever it turns out to be. I never know because that's how I run my show.
Steve, yeah, thank you very much, man. I really appreciate it.
Good to meet you.
Good to meet you.
All right, everybody, give me the go-home cue. It's time to wrap up this podcast and ride off into the sunset. I want to thank Adam Cole once again for coming by the crib and shooting the breeze with me and talking pro wrestling. I want to thank you for sending the questions in to ask Adam. I had a good time talking with that guy. Again, he's on the bigger and better and brighter things. The kid has a hell of a future in front of him. He's a hellacious worker. A pleasure to talk to him. I got Ted Fowler coming up here pretty quick because he's coming down to the Broken Skull Ranch. I am going to answer the questions you sent me. I've got them marked. I've got them on a little page, printed out, ready to roll. I just need Ted Fowler to show his ass up because half the damn questions are for Ted Fowler. So I got that going for me. Q&A coming up. Conversation with Ted coming up. Anyway, ProWrestlingTees.com/Steve Austin has all the shirts that I wore while filming this last season of Broken Skull Challenge. And the best damn IPA on the planet is Broken Skull IPA at El Segundo Brewing Company. And you can also get it at Whole Foods and Total Wines if you live in California. If you ain't in Cali, check InsideTheCellar.com and see if they ship to your state. You can find everything at BrokenSkullRanch.com, including the Cold Steel, Broken Skull, and Working Man Knife. Got to say one more thank you to all the fine sponsors of the Steve Austin Show. That's how I'm able to do this podcast for you twice a week for free. And you can find all my sponsors at PodcastOne.com. Just click on the Killer Deals button at the top of the page, then click on the Steve Austin Show banner. And just a reminder that the Steve Austin Show is also a participant in the Amazon Associates Program, an affiliate advertising program designed to provide a means for me to earn fees by linking to Amazon.com. You can link to Amazon at PodcastOne.com by clicking on the Killer Deals button at the top of the page. Hey, folks, keep listening. The 60-second AP News headlines are coming up next. Until then, my name is Steve Austin, and I'll catch your ass down the road.
Download new episodes of Steve Austin Unleashed every Thursday at PodcastOne.com. That's PodcastOne.com.
My name is Raven, professional wrestling superstar, world-class idiot, and raconteur extraordinaire. Join me for my new podcast, The Raven Effect. It's every Monday here on the Jericho Network on PodcastOne. We'll be covering current events and any and all topics that can be properly bantered. Download and listen to the show on PodcastOne.com, the Podcast One app, or subscribe on iTunes. Quote the Raven, nevermore.